So today we're talking about some Undead Unluck. It is the Hulu / Disney Plus exclusive anime of the split. So if you're not one of those anime junkies that has like Crunchyroll, Netflix, High Dive, and for whatever reason HBO Max, you probably have no idea about this anime. And it doesn't also help because Disney basically did their normal thing when it comes to anime and made it extremely hard to watch the anime. Like, if you're in Canada right now, it's still probably locked up and you can't watch it. It's the same thing they did with, I think, Summertime Rendering, Bleach. Disney just gotta get their shit together. So if you're not like one of the 1% of anime fans that has all the streaming services and just completely a content junkie, you probably have no idea about this anime. Luckily, my audience happens to be that 1%. But before we begin, I'll be instilling a dress code. Yes, a dress code. So pause the video real quick and go get your nearest beanie. Movie magic, I have a beanie now. Undead Unluck is definitely a roller coaster of an anime. It pulls you in with great animation, great sound design, great character design, mixed in with their like screwball type of comedy style, and engaging fight scenes to keep you interested in the show. Basically, it's one of those shows you can just simply switch your brain off and just watch. But if you're willing to listen to those subtle little hints that Yoshifumi Tezuka gives you, you're really in for a quite compelling story that will try to portray a valuable lesson through their characters. Undead Unluck was published by Shueisha, who then gave it off to Viz Media, which a lot of people knowing it to be in Shonen Jump. A couple magazines and 180 chapters later, and we now get an anime. I want to say Undead Unluck was given probably one of the biggest green lights you probably could have got in the anime industry. It was given David Productions for an anime studio, and then it was given TMS Entertainment for production and planning. Basically, the Batman and Robin duo of the anime industry, with David Production being the anime studio behind the entirety of the JoJo Bizarre's Adventures TV anime. Them also working on Cells at Work and Fire Force. Keep that Fire Force nugget I just gave to you and put it in the back of your pocket, because you'll need it for later. And TMS Entertainment is just such a long and big company. Don't make a sex joke out of that. But they basically just worked on a whole bunch of animes. Just, I'll put them on the screen. They're everywhere. They're just everywhere. Oh my god, it's everywhere. I would say right there in plain sight, you're given a pretty good thought-provoking question. What does it mean to change? Are you willing to accept the consequences of changing? What's the point of fighting a losing battle? And how much are you willing to suffer just to be able to break the cycle? The first opening of this scene has me so fucking confused, but in a good way. With it being a back and forth scene of two stories being played, but they both hold the same emotion, sadness, loneliness. And I just gotta say, this is when I knew the sound design was gonna be top freaking notch. Like, this sad song perfectly is really able to blend both of these two events. Not to mention the little subtlety of like when you're in the snow trekking along with that girl. You know, one of those end of the world animes? That's basically what this scene is, and it's so good, honestly. It's like one of those where like the main characters basically fail, but yet through all of that, they're still happy to be together. I'm gonna be real, like I need this anime. Like I legitimately need someone to make this anime. It's like a mix between, it's like the love child of like Alice in Borderlands meets Girls Last Tour meets Eden of the East. It's one of those. And it's pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. Like I need this. I need this now. And I'm thinking, okay, how does this play into the anime? You see, this is just simply the manga the main character happens to be reading. She's straight up just acting how I would if I had like Dragon Ball Z, Budokai Tenkaichi 4. Now that I've seen my favorite manga, I can die happy. Shed a tear. That's literally what this scene is, and I love it for that. With her actually being suicidal. A little backstory to like that first scene, basically. When she was like 8, her parents went off to like some trip, right? And they were on the freaking plane, and her kiss that she gave her parents caused the accident, killing like 200 people, including her mother and father. But then you keep going, and it turns out the character has this ability of bad luck. So yes, she did cause her parents to die. And just when she's about to just basically, you know, this random guy just interrupts her basically and is like, what are you doing? She then gives like a monologue saying how all she wanted was to have a passionate romance like her favorite shoujo characters, with her more or less being desperate for physical contact. I'm not even saying it there as like a negative. This is legitimately, she just wants to be able to like, I don't know, shake somebody's hand or like do a high five or like, I don't know, a hug. This girl needs a hug. I don't know if that's like Japan's way of just like tackling mental health. Just like, oh yeah, just give her a hug. She'll be fine. She basically just goes on to saying that anyone who touches her dies. And like in her head, she's thinking that she's scared another person off. But to him, it just makes her sound more attractive by the second. He then touches her, which shocks her, but instantly falls off the rails. And just when she's thinking that she's killed another person, about to be filled with some guilt, he literally rolls up like a soda can and is like, hey. With him being like this undead zombie who just wants to have a fantastic death because he's immortal and he can't die, but he wants to die now. It's like a mixture of character between that one guy from Bungo Stray Dogs, I can't say his name, I'll put it on the screen, I don't care, it's my video, and then like and like Bond mixed together, right? I'll just add Bond. Okay, so what happens next in the show is like just sus. Like I'm just gonna like you just look at it and you have to constantly remind yourself that I'm watching an anime, I'm watching an anime, I'm watching an anime, and just like shut your brain off. She runs away from him. He basically kidnaps her. I don't know why, but this scene literally just makes me feel like she has a skirt on and she's just trying to cover herself. I know this can't just be me. She says that she wants to die. He's like, bet. Fucking picks her up and is about to fucking yeet her out the freaking window, right? But he calls her bluff. After almost dying, with someone actually stopping her basically spills her guts out, explaining her tragic backstory. But this does not even faze our guy here. Does a combination of hug and grope her. I'm coining the term hug rope. Comment down below what you think this term should be called. A fucking box of bananas just drops from the sky and hits him, and then she makes a break for it, right? Understandable still, right? But because of the bananas, she basically trips on them, I guess. Like, I'm not gonna say it's lazy, but I'm gonna think it for sure. She basically falls off the skyscraper, right? He saves her, but then takes her to like this abandoned freaking mansion, which is hella sketchy. I'm just gonna say it. It's hella sketchy and it's weird, right? But then using her logic, the longer he touches her, the more dangerous of a scenario he gets. He just says, take your clothes off so I can cover you with the whitest amount of your body. They have another like chase scene, which at the beginning is honestly just kind of crazy to look at, but then it gets like, oh, it's comedic now, guys. And then she doesn't trip this time. Her jacket gets caught, and then like because of the jacket and the movement of her running, her beanie gets freaking snapped off her head, and we get to see her long ass hair. How to describe her hair? What's a word for long that I'm looking for here? Schlong sized hair? No, that's not what I'm thinking about. And I'm not gonna lie, she just looks way better with long hair. You know how girls like have like long hair down to like their butt, like butt crap, whatever, right? She has it like long to the freaking floor. That's how long it is. Like her hair is so long, she must be like constantly either stepping on it or at some point in time had people stepping on it. The anime does a good reason of explaining why her hair is so long, and honestly, I like these little subtle things when it comes to their characters, of explaining their powers and why they kind of suck, right? So the reason her hair is so long is because she can't go to a hairdresser, because every time someone basically goes to touch her face, they would die. Like they would instantly kill hairdressers. And she used the word hairdressers to say it was multiple people who have died trying to cut this girl's hair. And as she's sitting there crying, Bond here just basically just like, I'll cut your hair. And she's like, what? He's like, at some point in my life, I was a hairdresser. Well, that's convenient. You didn't have to lie to us. You could have just said, I will just be a nice person and cut your hair since I can't die. But whatever, anime, sure, whatever. Just then, though, the feds arrive to basically either capture or kill them. And I do mean both of them, because her powers are classified now as just straight up dangerous. And it's not until like 1425 in the anime do I finally get one of the characters' first name. Which, to be honest, is a little refreshing, because like most shows just like, as soon as they like enter with said character, it's some external character outside just saying their name, and we're like, oh, we get a freaking epilogue of who this person is already before not even seeing anything. This, at least I got to see who this character was before I got her name, being Fuuko. Okay, so they basically managed to capture the zombie by just like cutting off his head and then put him in like a jar. And then like this next part is just silly. It's just silly. It's just a bunch of foolishness. This man basically does a fucking tiptoeing in my Jordans and fucking handcuffs her. My man does a fucking Scooby-Doo and gets her like in 2 seconds. Like her map awareness is like just poor. You could never play League of Legends. Still, I'm just looking at her like, what are you looking at right now? Like, The guy who is talking in the said scene is right to your right. Zombie man escapes. But then scarred policeman number 2 does something that is going to be very common for the majority of the first part of the anime and just holds her hostage and is like, what are you going to do now, Batman? To me, these sort of scenes basically make or break your character, telling the audience what type of character you are and how are you going to respond. You're down 3-0 in the finals. What are you going to do? And with no hesitation, he straight up cuts off his head, or at least in the process of it, right? And I'm like, oh, he's a meathead. Got it. She's basically trying to give a monologue saying, no, you shouldn't sacrifice yourself for me. You got to go save yourself. And he's just like, huh? Like, he literally pulls a fucking Kakashi with Guy, and he's just like, were you saying something? And she's like, you weren't listening to me? And he's just like, I don't listen to anybody. And I'm just like, damn. And that's another thing that's going to be very consistent in the anime of like him just straight up just not listening to what she's saying. And as he's basically saying, I hope we meet again or something like that, right? This is the moment where she decides to make a change in her life. And she goes to kiss his head. And you wouldn't believe what happens next, right? She fucking summons a meteor. A meteor. Like, how do you like that for power scaling? Madara has to literally acquire the power of a god. And she's just like, I just gotta kiss somebody. Well, it's official now. Fuuko literally solos 90% of Naruto Shippuden now. All she has to do is kiss somebody and they die. Like, how are you gonna freaking stop a heat-seeking missile out of fucking space from random orbit? Her power is literally just random death. What the fuck is Ino doing to that shit? Literally, is Choji beating her? Like, this one policeman was right. Her power is literally only good for murder. And we're at the end of the anime, and Fuuko has already been known to kill at least 208 people. Why? Well, she killed 200 people to begin with. There's probably tons of unknown people throughout that process of the airport incident that we don't know and will never know that she probably is unfortunately killed. We got the policemen that showed up to try and capture her, who are now dead now. There's no chance they're living from that meteor. They're dead. Not to mention the unnamed hairdressers that she's killed along the way. How do you like that for a body count? For the sake of convenience, Fuuko just names him Andy, being undead for short. I don't know how undead equals Andy. Oh. Undead. Fair enough. So we know kissing her summons a meteor. That only begs the question about the next thing. And as if he read our mind, Andy's like, huh, so that was for a kiss. I wonder what happened if we fuck. With that being his next goal. And he's like, let's fuck. And then she just runs off. Everyone who watched this scene asked the same question of, what would happen if they fuck? Will that just like blow up the planet? Like, are we cooked? So Fuuko is played by Moka Kishimoto, with this basically being her biggest role of her career. Which, if that's the case, shout out to her. This is actually, I think, going to be a pretty good anime, so you know, you can probably get some better roles after this. To me, the character is like a mixture between Fuyumi and Sistine Fibble. Basically, her entire character arc, I feel like, is just like Fuyumi, and her role in the show is just like Fuyumi. To me, her character is meant to be flawed, that over the course of the anime will be the one having the most changes to her. I don't expect her to make a 180-degree change in her character, but I do expect her to have at least a more like a perpendicular type of character change, you know? Like, so Andy's played by Yuichi Nakamura, who's best known in his roles like Gray from Fairy Tail, Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, Tomo from Clanad, Greed from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. He plays Hawk from My Hero Academia. Here, I feel like he does an okay job with the character. I definitely would not say it's like one of his top 7 acting performances because, to be honest, this guy has a pretty extensive and long career when it comes to voice acting, and he just has better roles as a character in these other animes. I will say he does know how to pick what shows to be a part of, because his character here in Andy is pretty much a mixture of some of his other characters he's played in other shows. He reminds me of Staz from Blood Lad, as in his place in the show, essentially. What is he meant to do? With that being to protect. So basically, this organization named Union is trying to hunt them down and kill them. So they end up running to this organization like they're supposed to, and Andy goes out to fight them. While Andy is fighting them, Fuuko basically goes and talks to the quote-unquote muscular pretty boy, right? Who's slightly hitting on her. As they're making conversation, she basically asks, wait, you guys are negators too, right? And he's like, yes, we're negators. They get to the point in the conversation where she asks, if you're negators, then how exactly are you not being hunted by the government? And they explain that our job is to hunt down other negators. It's basically the thing like in Chainsaw Man when like Denji has to join up with Makima or he's gonna be hunted down and killed. Same thing here with Fuuko. She realizes, hey, could we just like join you guys? And he's just like, well, there's a catch. If you want to join us, you have to kill one of our members. We can only have 10 seats of the round table. And like immediately when he said round table, I'm just like, what the fuck are you guys? You guys from like knights? You try to be knights? I don't see no fucking Camelot. I don't see no horse. So if they want to stop being hunted down, they have to kill them, which they basically do. They kill the robot guy, and like, instead of like his partner being like mourning his death, you know, or like shedding a tear, or like remembering the good times he had with his partner, or even like the "I'll kill you" revenge line that tons of other animes basically do, this guy is just so nonchalant about it. He's just like, oh, I never liked that guy. He even goes as far as to give them a recommendation to take his man's spot. And like at this point in the anime, I'm just like, this organization ain't shit. Like every top anime team group at least somewhat cares about each other, you know, like at some level. Like at least the Phantom Troop, an organization of bounty hunters, killers, murderers, like the worst of the worst. At least I feel like they motherfuckers actually care if one of them died. Damn. Then at this point in the anime, I'm just like, it's cool, not great, nothing really to write home about. But my opinion of the show completely changes after I watch the 3rd episode. From there, we actually get into the plot as well as the true meaning behind the show. For context, Fuuko's left alone on the beach, and she sees a girl painting. The two of them start a conversation, and the girl asks if she'd like to come and paint with her. She doesn't want to agree at first because she's afraid of killing this girl accidentally, but the two of them start to sit down and paint, and they start to get along and slowly become friends. And as they're painting, the girl decides to ask her a question, saying, what do you prefer more? Stuff that changes or stuff that stays the same? Well, the girl's saying that she wants things to stay the same, not liking the idea of being tied down or be swayed by another person's opinion. But they're explaining that that's the reason why she loves art. She gets to make a painting and capture a certain moment, and that moment will never leave her. When you first hear this, it doesn't sound that bad. And then she asks Fuuko, which one does she like? Fuuko doesn't know just yet. So she asks if she could have some more time. And by the time they finish painting, Fuuko comes up with an answer. She goes over all the crazy stuff that's happened to her in the last 4 days, and she comes to the conclusion that she's been a shut-in for way too long and she wants to change. She explained earlier in that episode how she's never been outside Japan and doesn't really travel that far outside of her own room. And here they are, basically in Europe, enjoying their time on a beach. She would have never had this experience if she didn't decide to change. And I have to say, I agree with her. Like, make new friends, eat new foods, explore other people's cultures. Like you don't have to go out and do something like extreme activity, like, I don't know, like skydiving or things like parasailing or like something crazy, you know, like just insert anything crazy. To me, the most fun I could probably have is doing something like spontaneous, having a new experience that we haven't tried before, and enjoying those moments together. Maybe we missed the bus or the train, or we have to call an Uber or whatever. Maybe we're lost, we don't know where we're going. Still, I think I would prefer those moments rather than a planned schedule about what I would want to do. To be honest, this question is really a matter of perspective. It's a question of where exactly you are in your life right now. Are you working a dead-end job that you hate? Well, if that's the case, then you would probably prefer change. Are you satisfied in your stable, loving environment? Then you probably don't want to change. But that's when this anime's version of Cruel Tempest makes her move. You hear the sound, you hear the music change, and you feel that ominous presence around the character as she's now just walking on water. Is she water walking right now? Are you a ninja, bitch? She even got the open toe sandal design. And that's when Andy shows up and he's just like, oh yeah, I know I mentioned this like yesterday, but she's basically one of the strongest people on the planet. I really like the sound design, like I said earlier about this anime. Like other shonen, it has that beat drop warp effect. Even when like characters are trying to make a point or be a little more dramatic, the sound comes in just right. Like even in this scene where she's like basically trying to like put her arms up and express her, like start her monologue. It even does a little like sound effect to help accentuate that point. I like that. It's a little touch they didn't have to add, but they did. I love them for it. Of course, we gotta talk about the opening, right? The opening is freaking amazing. Like think that was my favorite part about the anime for like the first 2 episodes. I was like, this animation for the opening, best part. It's better than the actual anime. It's better than all the fight scenes. It's better than the power-ups. It's better than the dialogue. It just is. You can see it takes a lot of inspiration from like Bleach 01, like opening. It's legitimately just good. It has like a strong color layout of like this red, kind of like this yellow, and like this bluish green going on a little bit. Even the purples are good too. I like the purples. And then when you get to the actual ending, it doesn't make sense at first. You're like, okay, so what is this supposed to mean exactly? I get why he's on the boat. He wants to die, whatever, right? He's ready to peace out, right? Either way, you don't know much about the anime and the characters just yet, but you're just like, this animation, solid, just top notch. I have nothing really crazy else to say about it, just top notch. The animation is definitely a blend between Nisekoi, Monogatari series, and Fire Force, which makes sense because the guy who directed all those animes is also here directing this anime as well. You'll find that a lot of like David Productions as well as TMS Entertainments basically flip-flop between like creators essentially and like creative directors and whatnot. So it makes sense how this anime has very similar animation. Like for example, it has like those wide shots, like where they put those little black overdrops on the character and try to accentuate basically more of the space around them. Even like when they're talking and they like pull away from the character with the camera angle and like they're in the shot, but like it's letting you look at the world around them. And then even when they're talking, they would be talking and then you just cut to like water just splashing around. Good B-roll, good B-roll. The animation team doesn't go as far as they did on Monogatari series, which is really good because Monogatari series is like the only series I think that can really get away with some of the stuff they do with the visual effects essentially, where they would basically just have nothing to do with the characters and just have this like random things to try to illustrate what they're talking about. And this anime doesn't do that, which I like because I don't think it would work. I think something else they really do a good job of doing is having good personal scenes between Fuuko and Andy. Like, you know the snow scene at the beginning of the anime? Yeah, that's not in the manga or source material like at all. That entire scene's not there. Also, when she's having her like suicidal monologue, there's supposed to be a crowd around her telling her to get down and like to stop what she's doing, right? That's not in the anime at all. Like, did you ever wonder why she has a freaking knife at the beginning scenes of the anime? I know when I was watching that, I was like, why does she have a knife? What is she gonna do with a knife? She's like trying to jump off. Like I said, that's just like a little Easter egg for like the manga readers. To me, they're adding really cool like context to the anime that just simply wasn't in the manga. And I know some manga readers can be like taking this as a huge like personal attack that I think the anime is just flat out better than the manga. But come on, bro, it's true. Next thing we talk about is basically the pacing of the show with it being pretty fast. Now, this could be a positive and a negative. To me, I think this is pretty much a positive for this action shown in anime. So if you're like trying to like watch or read ahead, I would just tell you that 2 chapters of the manga equals 1 episode of the anime. Sometimes it's 3, but usually it's 2 that they squeeze into 1 episode of the anime, which is actually my preferred pacing for an action anime. Like, you know, like in a school anime, the default setting for the entirety of the show is going to be the school. Or like with an isekai, the default location is going to be like the dungeon, the guild, or the town you got dropped in, right? You don't have simple default areas of where you're going to be at. Here, the setting is changing whenever the fuck they want it to change, right? So you're first at a train station. All right, cool. Top of a skyscraper. Okay, cool. Now you're in a freaking haunted abandoned mansion. Oh, a hidden bunker next. Next, you got a fucking construction site. Next, you're riding a freaking boat. And then after that, you somehow make it in the sky, just flying around like a bird. You got space at some point. Next, you go to a freaking grassland. You go to a beach just for shits and gigs. You go to to be a cowboy on a ranch. I hope you understand now, they don't give a fuck where they're telling the story at. It doesn't matter. The setting really doesn't matter at all, which at times can feel just like a full tonal like whiplash. And honestly, by like episode 6 or 7, you just get used to it. I'm just gonna keep it real. You're just numb to it by this point. You don't even feel the pain anymore. What I like about it is like at the beginning of the anime and they're introducing this character, it has you think that, oh, she's like Andy's past love interest or lover of some sort, right? Wrong. When she explains how exactly she'd met this motherfucker and how she fell in love, you're just like, oh, bitch, you crazy. I'm like this. Let me get this straight. You did your job and you captured him. and you're like apologizing, saying, I'm sorry I had to get you. I was my orders, okay? And instead of him just being like mad at you or whatever, right? He accepts your apology and he's just like, oh, don't even worry about it. And cause he was just simply cool about you doing your job. And not only that, he's like, but when I get out of here, I'ma kick your ass. She's like this. And that was the moment when I fell for him. And then she spends every day of her life for years talking to him in this cage, basically. I will say this on the bright side. As soon as like she sees Fuuko, she's not like out for blood on full yandere vibes. Like she wants to kill her, right? But like it ain't like I hate you. You stole the person I love. Like it's nothing like that. It's just like I'm doing my job. You're dangerous. You happen to be here, but I'm really here for him. What's funny about the fight is like she's not even taking it serious either. She's just like talking and giving her little monologues. And meanwhile, Andy is actually trying to kill her. She's just like, if anything, I just feel like she's just trying to catch up. And I'm just like, you know what? She has some really strong Chubio vibes at times, but I'm like, I'll fuck with it. If I can watch Image and Shadow the entire time with no breaks, then I can watch her. She cool. Not to mention though, she is OP. All the people who have powers have terrible drawbacks. Except for Gina. Gina doesn't have no drawbacks. It's just straight power, right? So her power is barriers, right? So she has a barrier that's like almost automatic and basically as strong as Gojo's, right? Not to mention she has telekinesis. Those two alone, plus you don't have a drawback, makes you top tier already in the world. Already. She also has this like cool ass like Mexican sombrero looking ass hat that's like fucking spinning like a top like it's Sonic, and I'm just like thinking the entire time like Beyblade, let it rip. And when you get later into the freaking fight scene that she has, her freaking power turns into freaking crazy hands from like Smash Bros. Fucking reminded me of that one girl from Elven Lied, right? And I'm like, shit, them hands are hella creepy, but highly effective. But what makes her like my favorite character of the show so far is what they did with her character, right? So in the show, basically, you have to find out your enemy's weakness, essentially their powers, because all the powers have a weakness. That's the good part about it. And you have to find and maneuver your way with your power to somehow beat them. I know there's like a comparison you can make to like Hunter x Hunter and their like power system and scaling. You could do it if you want. But the thing about it is like she basically does lose. They find a way to beat her. They fucking pulled a Naruto shit of like he fucking goes underneath the ground and hits Neji, and that's kind of how he beats him, right? They more or less do something similar to her in this episode, right? And as Andy's about to kill her, Fuuko's running over trying to stop him, and then as she's about to get to him, he kills her. And you're just like, damn, I really like that character. Why did they have to kill her? After her death, that's when you realize just what type of person she was. Her upbeat personality was simply a mask. It was a way for her to hide the pain. Deep down, she hates having to hunt people down and kill them. She's had to kill many of men, many of women, and many of beasts just running around, hating all of it. And when she captured Andy, it brought a piece of stability in her life. She could go to him at any time and spill her heart out, basically. Tell her how much she hates this. Tell him that she honestly just wants to end it. And when Andy heard this confession, he was like, hey, when I do decide to get out of here, you'll be the first person that I go to, kill. And he said it as a joke in passing, but in the end, she really did fully mean what she said. She wanted to kill Fuuko, but she did it as a kindness in a way, because she looks at Fuuko and she doesn't think that she'll be able to kill anyone or hurt anyone. And even if she did manage to do so, the organization would just simply take away her kindness, take away her innocence, and turn her into something else. And she didn't want to see that. So in a way, this is her trying to help Fuuko. And in her last scene, she gets to kiss the man she loves. She feels a little embarrassed about how she looks currently, but he doesn't care. The thing that separates her death from the 208 other deaths that we've already seen in the anime is that hers means something. We got to know this character. We got to see both sides of the character. We got to see the character while she was our antagonist, and we got to see her while she was a friend. We got to see what she was really thinking in her final moments, as well as what she put on display for other people. Her death reminds me of Haku from Naruto, a girl who didn't want to hurt anybody, but because of the circumstances of her life, she was forced into a position that made her hurt people. A person with a kind heart who, if they really got to choose, would have never fought anyone. A person who's willing to kill if you don't have the resolve to finish it yourself, but giving you multiple opportunities to end her suffering. And she's in a place where she's like, I wish I could have changed. With her deep down wishing to be like Fuuko, wishing she could change, but she's so far into the loop that she can't. But like I said, her death does mean something. It gives Fuuko the resolve to decide to kill the other members of the organization to end this. And Andy agrees. And they're soon brought to the meeting room of the other organization members. And this is when the anime completely flips our expectations of where the show is going. Because now we're joining the organization. They're trying to destroy it from the inside out. But as soon as they start talking and they start to hear the other members of the organization, they understand that, hey, these people actually do care about each other. Basically, this evil book named Apocalypse is giving them quests, and basically if they don't complete them, that's like another X mark on their tally. And if they get 101 negative tallies or rules, right, the planet will just explode. Each time they're able to successfully do a quest, they get a reward that helps them save the world and get out of this mess. Still, Fuuko is hearing how they have to kill people, and she's basically asking the morality question of, still, we can't do this. We shouldn't do this. Shouldn't we be trying to fight the book? Shouldn't we be trying to fight the god behind the book who's causing all this mess? And Jules, aka Justice, just like, if you don't like it, you become number one. You become the strongest person here. You decide to change this mess that we're in, right? And it's not even like super confrontational, and like it's not like she has to be walking on eggshells when she's talking to these people. You realize that they're also the victims of the circumstance here. With this changing your perspective again, and negators are basically put into two groups. You have Union and you have Negator Hunters. We meet the Negator Hunters, and their entire like quest and all this is, instead of going to like fight and kill God, which is what Union wants to do, being the side Fuuko and Andy are on, their entire thing is, we want to just live it up. We want to just enjoy our time here on Earth, as well as rule Earth, basically, right? And you're just like, nigga, we about to get blown the fuck up in like a couple more days if we fuck up. Like, which is their entire thing of, they don't want to fight a losing battle fighting against God, because they don't believe anyone can basically kill God. We next get like Billy's betrayal, and we learn that he basically betrayed them because of a loop. He realizes the truth, which Jules did not tell anyone. She's been trapped in this loop for really, I don't know how many times. She looked at their ages, they're like billions of years old. So for a very long time, they've been trapped in this loop. Basically, it would fail the rule system and the Earth would just explode. Luckily, when the Earth is being rebuilt, because basically God would destroy the planet and then rebuild it. But still, I would say things are just basically reset. And Jules and Andy are the only people that have been sitting here throughout the entirety of all the different destructions of the world. And she hasn't told anyone up to this point. Even if she did tell them, they would probably die, and then she would have to redo this all over again. And she's been trying to find a way for so long, but she simply can't. And once Billy found out, he was done. He was like, I'd rather just do this instead. I know I mentioned this like a little bit earlier, but like, I'm gonna just say it here. Like, this show reminds me of My Hero Academia, X-Men, Dead Man Wonderland, Blood Lad, Blood, Blockade, Battlefront, and beyond. So My Hero Academia is pretty kind of obvious. Everyone who has the powers basically has, you can say, has a quirk, right? Each one of their powers does have a pretty negative downside. Like, you know, we have Unluck Girl. She basically can't touch anyone or they'll die. She has to always be covered up fully. Undead Zombie Man, he can't die no matter what. He's immortal and he has no context of time. Not to mention, he has developed multiple different personalities. Same thing with Justice. As long as you basically don't question her ideals, you won't die. She's like Titania. She's a living, breathing nuke, basically, right? She's a nuke. She's a nuke. She's like that one character from like The Boys, basically. The only way you can kill her is to like just like insert like her with like poison or some other shit through like the mouth or whatever other holes, right? And that's how you would kill her. They usually have some big drawback that like makes it, oh yeah, I didn't mention this also before, which is really interesting about the show. Basically, if a person with a superpower dies, some random person out in the world is going to be hit with a superpower, which is how Titania got her power, which explains that like it's not like a genetic thing. It's like you have now been chosen to fight in this battle, essentially. Dead Man Wonderland, you have these superpower people who are being basically put into a shitty situation where they're being controlled by the government or other people above them. None too crazy as similarity there. And if they don't decide to participate, they die. Blood Lad, the comparison to Blood Lad is pretty simple. It's like Fuuko and Andy's relationship the entirety of the time. It's not a full copy, but like how their interactions work, it's very, very similar. And then you have Blood Blockade. Basically, whenever they have their little missions or their quests, it just reminds me so much of that show. What I don't like about the show, like I said, I don't like the whole like 99 like rule penalty they already have, to where if they hit 101 on Ragnarok, they basically just doom the earth and everyone just dies. Having it already be a 99 just makes it like, okay, so they basically have to play Elden Ring on like perfect difficulty, right? If you mess up one time, well, that's your ass, you know, like you've doomed everyone. This makes me predict that basically there's just gonna be too many happy endings between the characters, and Fuuko's not gonna get enough character development through like trial and error and then success and failure, you know, like she's not gonna have that. Speaking of Fuuko, I don't really like her. It's nothing personal, kid. I think she has a good character design. I think she has good morality, but she's not annoying, but at times I do feel like she's kind of whiny and she's just really preachy. But my problem is that for such a main character, a big important piece of the show, to be wishing to change the world through her ideology, she is so freaking useless. Like, she's nothing more than like a backpack for Andy for like the first 8 episodes. Like, she's literally just in the backpack. And then I did read ahead to see what exactly is going to happen. And I can say that the first season of her being here, she's just going to be a backpack character. And until she does something, I'm not going to take her very seriously. Also, something else I just don't like about the show is like their entire relationship gag routine, where more or less we'll be having this cool looking fight, and then just out of nowhere, they just have this like overly sexual, like not funny, like comedy that just interrupts what the fuck we were doing a second ago. And I'm just like, can we get back to the fighting? Like, the fighting was pretty good. Like, can we just like do that again? Like, the plot just wants to add in these unfunny sexual harassment jokes comedy thing, and I'm just like, but why though? Like, why? Like, if you're just like some ticking time bomb of like teenage hormones, or you want Fuuko to be the star in your fat material, then you shouldn't like this. Like, no one should like this. No one should be like, yeah, this is great. I can get like maybe 1 or 2 like, ooh, boob jokes here and there, but like, it's just over the top and just not needed in any way. Like, even the main characters in like Andy and Fuuko, it doesn't match them. Like, Andy, sure, he does like Fuuko, and he does like, oh, that's my girl, essentially, right? He's not like overly horny. Like, if Denji did this shit, I'd be like, haha, it goes with his character, it goes with the plot, I guess, we'll let it slide. If Master Roshi did this shit, we're like, that's kind of creepy now, Grandpa, but like, you are Master Roshi, so like, this is kind of what you do. But Andy's not like that. He's a fucking meathead. He basically told her to have more respect for herself in her 2nd episode, and was like, I'm not gonna just straight up fuck you if you have low self-esteem. And then Fuuko, like I said, she's still like in like teenage years, essentially. She's 18, by the way, but like, she's still in that like more teen young adult area, and she has like all the blushes, and like she does have the tsundere moments, but she's not like a freaking, and sure, I do think she's like a closet pervert, right? But she's still like not crazy horny to be having these scenes. And if that's your comedy, it's not good comedy. But if you do like this stuff, right, just go fucking jack off or get laid. Also, there's just like several moments in the show where I'm just like, she should have just straight up died, or at least the very least have like a serious injury, right? So you're telling me this show where people are actually trying to kill each other, and like she has basically no scratch on her, but like our bad guy just simply dies? They're basically following the rule of like, main guy Andy takes all the damage because like he won't die anyways. There's no freaking danger of him dying. And then you look over to Fuuko and you're like, well, we can't hurt the fan service. That's why I say she like reminds me of Fuyumi from like Blood Lad, because she's basically just fan service. She's just a comedy sex gag character with fan service. Like, and they're gonna be trying to integrate an actual like character later on into her. Also, I don't like how Jules basically says how if you want to unlock your power, you must fall in love with Andy. And I'm just like, but why though? Why couldn't she just, I don't know, like just love life in general and train to fight? Like, I will say this part of the show just feels kind of dated. I mean, there's other shonen characters have done this before, and I'm just like, guess there's no different with that. Luckily, though, I will say she does learn how to fight and get stronger later on into the show. And I think she does become like a powerhouse later on. So super cool, super cool. But right now we're just learning. But right now we're just like in the growing stages of the anime. So we just got to keep going. Like I said, there are some major like downsides to this anime, but For the most part, it does have really great potential. It has something there for a meaning behind the show. Great character designs all around, animation, sound. They do need to fix some of the dialogue. It's a little whack. But besides that, it's definitely worth the watch, so give it a try. Also, if you like this type of style of video, make sure to leave a like. I don't know where I'm putting this freaking button, but it's somewhere over here. Like, I don't know. It's